Today, I'd like to discuss the recent Christmas gift from Arrowhead, a conversation with Johan. I won't cover the whole thing, just segments that stood out to me and a few theories from myself as to where some of the answers from Johan could take us. I'll also leave the video in the description down below for anyone that wants to see the full conversation. Anyhow, let's get stuck into this. So the first question goes, you've said the team views Helldivers 2 as a platform to grow, perhaps even into a sequel or what a sequel could be. What are the defining sequel level features that you'd like to see that haven't been introduced yet? Johan touches on increasing the size of the galactic war via scope, 8-player missions, larger open worlds, and coming across other teams in these open worlds, operations affecting other teams, and
anything that really accentuates the galactic war and the scale of the conflict that the players are in.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like they're wanting an almost Lite MMO Helldivers game. Now, back in December 2024, Pilestead responded to a question that emphasized the notion of 8-player teams. Pretty much this question, but in tweet form. The conversation evidently led to a request for Helldivers 3, to which Pilestead stated that they were in fact growing Helldivers 2 into Helldivers 3. So a year later, and it's only just been brought to wider attention for anyone who hasn't seen this tweet in the past. I imagine that there are a few people that haven't. This will most likely come when the engine either becomes imperative to the game's future, which in my opinion would be the case, or before they even get a chance of even planning a transition from Helldivers 2 to 3, which could cause issues as well. Say someone doesn't like the way Helldivers 3 emerged from Helldivers 2. Are people going to get to go back and play Helldivers 2? That's something to think about when it comes to completely changing a dynamic of a game. When Arrowhead says
accentuates the galactic war,
it opens up many possibilities, expanding the scope not just of the war itself, but of the Helldivers and Super Earth as a home. The idea of large open world planets where multiple squads can drop in separately, each tackling their own missions, where there's even a possibility of another squad close by throwing up an SOS signaling for help. Your team can decide whether it's beneficial to finish the mission you're on, or if it will be more of a benefit to go and help the team that are SOSing for assistance. This goes for world boss events too, much like Diablo 4's approach. Any squad can abandon their objective, rally together, and complete whatever the objective is. Now, one feature the community keeps begging for is a Super Earth Codex, and honestly, it's long overdue. There should already be an ever-expanding catalogue of everything dangerous toward us. Planet biomes and their deadly flora, deep dives into the enemy genetics and their weak spots, blueprints of structures and how to destroy them. Here's something inherently for new divers. Entries unlock only when you earn them. Blow up a facility, hit a weak spot, stumble on a hidden side objective, or Arrowhead could even turn it into a temporary major order. Everyone replays missions, gathers their evidence, and once the community hits the goal, we unlock new capes, patterns, super credits, or whatever, you know. Want to increase the scope a little more? Add clans, create unique achievements for them, limited time missions loaded with multipliers, debuffs, you get exotic rewards. Throw in a community hub as well, like an interactive board where people can ask that they're looking for groups. Small little things like this. Helldivers could deliver a live action MMO style experience without cramming hundreds of players onto one server. Again, I'm not a developer, but surely something like this is possible within Helldivers. Next question. With the scale increasing, player counts, platforms, different territories added since launch, what are the biggest surprises or lessons you've learned in supporting such a live service game at this scale and magnitude, both on the technical side and from the community? So in summary, again, Johan says that major challenges include managing technical debt due to rapid content and platform releases.
The more we build, the worse our tech debt gets.
He also says he is pleasantly surprised by the community's overall positivity despite challenges, and highlights the welcoming integration of Xbox players, which we can all agree as a community was something that truly brought everybody together. Okay, so tech debt is the future cost of choosing a quick, easy solution now instead of a better, more time-consuming approach, forcing extra work later for maintenance, debugging, or reworking in general. Basically, 60-day patches happen when tech debt is not closely monitored. From an uneducated position like mine, it still sounds like this is an engine issue. We know that the engineers are tasked with modifying an already heavily modified game engine that has been dead for nearly a decade, so what chance do they really have to work with? That game engine is the Autodesk Stingray for anybody that's curious. It most certainly needs to be replaced. The only problem being is when to do it. and I do not envy the person who has to make that decision.
3 months of development time is nothing, but 3 months of wait for new content for the players is an eternity.
It's quite poetic that he uses the word eternity there, because Arrowhead needs to study what Hello Games have done with No Man's Sky. Helldivers 2 and No Man's Sky have been in similar positions. No Man's Sky has in recent years written the book on bringing a game back from the death. And again, I'm an uneducated, crayon-eating idiot that knows nothing of game development, but there's seemingly a lesson to be learned, and I feel like Arrowhead are not even attempting to do so, Into the Untested being a recent example. And the mention of 3 months being partially the issue that they face with the Helldivers community. Hello Games from 2020 have released updates more or less consistently between 1 to 3 months each, all for free. I personally don't see this as an acceptable excuse. It feels like finger pointing towards the community, us, as if we have an issue with waiting for an appropriate amount of time before we get content. I can wait for content, but saying waiting 3 months is an eternity for the community, that's pretty much passing the buck, dude. Hello Games did it, and again, I'm no game developer, but there's a lesson to be learned here in some way. The community often creates lore, memes, and emergent stories like friendly fire chaos and stratagem fails. How do you monitor or incorporate community-generated content, and will there ever be an official mode celebrating those emergent player stories? This, I felt, was a much-needed answer, as I've often wondered how the community's creative side has impacted the developers themselves and what additions they could bring to the game. Again, broadening the scope of the galactic conflict, Johan mentions the complexity of what would come from using our Super Destroyer TV screens as a place to stream community moments. To achieve this, my idea would be a loadout of selection or an activity on death, but let's look at the stratagem in this case. I think the broadcasting unit support stratagem would be incredibly fun to bring along, a device that acts as a backpack and provides an over-the-shoulder low-resolution camera feed of a Helldiver, much like the Federal Network news dude in Starship Troopers or the feeds from the Colonial Marines in Aliens. This, of course, would open the opportunity for your in-game camera to be fed to Super Destroyer TVs across the galaxy. However, feed cuts before death and switches to a brand new Helldiver as to not reduce morale. Can't be having Helldivers thinking they're being thrown into a meat grinder now, can we?
Ugh, I hate socialism.
Will there be harder modes or difficulties implemented for players that want it, including a level cap increase? Johan replies with yes for sure, providing a real challenge for top tier players is absolutely on the roadmap. The main hurdle is performance, as simply adding more enemies isn't feasible. They also want to avoid lazy difficulty increases like just boosting health, which would detract from the core fun. Instead, the approach is to introduce more unknown elements and complexity to missions, making team play and coordination a strict requirement for success. There will be a level cap increase, however, he notes it's one of those things that constantly slipping outside of the things that we want to get done for the next update. Aside from engine limitations, if the main hurdle is in fact performance issues, I'd be more interested in what's behind the idea of introducing more unknown elements and complexity to missions. I can only imagine this is what simply occurs with the Hive Lord. It was unknown on its arrival, and its complexity comes from repeatedly failing to destroy it until you do figure out a working method. Team play and coordination we definitely see in the Platinum missions, and if that's the case, I'm more than happy to let Arrowhead cook with this one. What are the thoughts on adding an in-game compendium to build the community lore? Johan tells us that this is in fact a project called the Galactic War History that was started but then paused due to other priorities. The idea was to pull data from all community actions to create a historical record. This is bundled with an encyclopedia of the galaxy, which would allow players to review information on enemies, weapons, and Super Earth's history. The aspirational goal is for it to also handle user-generated content, allowing the community to chronicle the Galactic War. This is basically the codex I was asking for earlier, but they made it sound so much more interesting. And I'm making these notes and editing while on the fly, so this is quite serendipitous. And this is something I would vote for immediately if a poll was ever generated on what you'd want the devs to work on the side. A game that embraces its community in such a way tends to do well. However, the ideas of community-driven additions to a Galactic War history book just sounds outstanding to me. Imagine you and your Helldiver's name being immortalized in the halls of written Galactic War history as the one Helldiver that killed the most enemies in that major order. You'd be creating leaderboards within major orders that are now ending up as narrative within Helldiver's canonical lore, becoming part of Super Earth history. Sign me up. But yeah, that brings a close to this video on my thoughts and feelings and theories, I guess, about Johan Pilestead, or at least a conversation with Johan Pilestead. I hope you've enjoyed this new kind of direction of content. I've quite enjoyed it myself. But yeah, do leave a like if you had, leave a dislike if you haven't enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment if you feel like you wish to. But until next time, happy diving, diver.